Welcome to the channel where ordinary gas stations turn into places of terrifying encounters. Today, I'm bringing you a compilation of stories that will definitely make you think twice before stopping to fill up your tank again. You won't believe what can happen in such an innocent place. If you think nothing bad can happen at a gas station, you might reconsider after watching this video. I wish you an enjoyable listen. Let's start with the first story. My girlfriend and I were in a small Texas town right off the highway, and we stopped at a little gas station to buy some beer and chips. For some reason, when we stopped, I felt the need to say, "I think I should go in with you this time," which was really strange because I usually stay in the car when we go somewhere. Or if I do get out, I never feel the need to announce it. When we went inside, everything seemed normal. We were kind of laughing and joking about how the half-naked cutout girl on a magazine had a weird pixelated face. Then we started looking at all the beers, and I was really indecisive, so I just grabbed 2 coconut margarita drinks without thinking and headed to the counter, saying we needed to get out of there fast. The feeling that someone was watching me kept growing stronger. It felt like pure malice, something I hadn't experienced before. It's hard to explain. Right by the counter, there was an old Hispanic man leaning against the ice cream cooler, basically watching every customer. Everything felt slow. It's difficult to describe. When I put my stuff on the counter, the man gave us a really wide smile and started talking in a very strange way. It seemed like he was trying to be charming or charismatic, but he just came off as really creepy. Outside the door, I saw a man in a red jacket, just standing there, staring through the door, just watching and waiting. By now, it was pretty clear that those men were waiting for us. It's really hard to explain the overwhelming sense of fear we felt, and I didn't want to talk about it until we were off the parking lot. The man in the red jacket kept circling the building, watching us as the car pulled away. The town we were in has a pretty bad reputation, as several people have lost their lives there due to human trafficking, and honestly, I think they were just waiting to find the perfect victim. I also believe that if I hadn't gone inside with my girlfriend, they probably would have kidnapped her. I've never felt such an intense sense of impending doom and paranoia in my life. We kept talking about it for the rest of the night. We were really lucky that we went inside together and got out as quickly as we did. I mean, who knows what could have happened? You just want to buy beer and chips, but instead, you feel like someone's watching you, like in a movie. And when someone stares at you like you're the last slice of pizza at a party, it's just too much. It's a good thing I went inside with her. Who knows what would have happened if I had left my girlfriend alone? This is exactly the kind of intuition that can save your neck. Now, on to the next story. It happened about 2 years ago on Halloween. We stopped at a gas station to grab some snacks, and this guy came up to me and said I looked good. At that moment, I was already pretty drunk and didn't care. So I just thanked him, smiled, and went on looking for snacks. Then he starts following me around the gas station, and at that point, I just kind of shrug it off. My friend and I pay and leave, but as we're walking out, he approaches us from behind and asks where we're going. In my mind, I'm thinking, yeah, right, buzz off. We tell him we're heading home, and he seems to get the message and leaves us alone. My friend was going to drive us home in my car since I was in no condition to drive. We were about 3 blocks away from my car when we noticed a car driving really slowly behind us. We glanced back a few times, and that's when we realized it was the guy from the gas station following us. We decided it wouldn't be a good idea to lead him back to my car, so we turned and headed in a different direction, back toward the street where the clubs were. He turned too and kept following us. Then he rolled down his window and shouted, asking if we needed a ride. I politely said, "No thanks, we're good. I think we just took a wrong turn." But he kept driving behind us. We picked up the pace, and he sped up too. He called out again through the passenger window, asking if we wanted a ride. I told him to stop following us or I'd call the police. That's when he started cursing at us, really nasty stuff. And then he finally drove off. So yeah, that's the story of the creepy guy from the gas station who decided to follow us. Hopefully, we never run into him again. This guy seriously thinks the best way to pick up girls is to stalk them halfway across town and offer rides like some amateur cab driver. I'm pretty sure there's a whole flirting school for guys like him in some dark corner of the internet. The important thing is that we managed to shake him off, and this creepy driver won't be showing up in any horror version of your life, hopefully. But now, on to story number 3. One day, about 2 years ago, I was at home with my younger sister and a friend. We were around 20 or 21 at the time, and all of us were women. We were really hungry and decided to go out for sushi. On the way to the restaurant, I noticed that I was running really low on gas, so I stopped to fill up. I pulled up to the pump and parked the car. I went inside to pay, while my sister and friend waited in the car. As I was walking across the parking lot toward the store, I noticed a man staring at me with a creepy smirk on his face. We made eye contact, and then he yelled across the parking lot, "Hey, beautiful! Why aren't you smiling?" I didn't respond and just ignored him. A young woman nearby saw what happened and told him, "Don't say that. Leave her alone, you jerk." I still think about that woman sometimes. I thanked her and kept walking into the store. As I was patiently standing in line, the same man walked in. He came up to me almost immediately while I was waiting in line and started touching me, stroking my arms and lower back. I stepped away from him and loudly said, "Get away! Leave me alone!" A few other customers and the cashier were watching us. I caused a scene, and he whispered in my ear that I needed to be quiet so people wouldn't think he was a creep. Suddenly, the man ran out of the store and headed straight for my car, where my sister and friend were still sitting. I ran after him. He opened the car door and started saying something to them. My sister reacted quickly. She yanked him by the collar of his shirt and punched him right in the face. He started cursing at us, calling me every vulgar name you can imagine. But then he finally left us alone. He got into his car and drove off. I'm so relieved nothing worse happened. Now, I'm much more aware of my surroundings. This is exactly the kind of story that shocks you and leaves you thinking, how on earth can someone just touch a woman without her consent and act like it's no big deal? It's disgusting. Absolute bottom of the barrel, worthless trash behavior. This kind of attitude shows how some people have zero respect and think they can get away with anything. Huge respect and applause for this woman who stood up for herself and protected her friends. Thankfully, it didn't end worse, but that feeling of someone invading your personal space like that with the intention to cause harm is just revolting. It's so important to be aware of your surroundings because you never know when you'll come across someone who thinks it's okay to touch someone without permission. If there hadn't been a quick reaction, this story could have ended very differently. Now, on to story number 4. When I was about 17 or 18, I was driving home from a friend's house after a movie marathon. It was around 1 a.m., and the drive wasn't too bad. Halfway through, my fuel light came on. I'd had a few creepy experiences at gas stations before, so I was feeling a bit paranoid. As a 40-kilo woman stopping that late in the middle of nowhere, I couldn't help but be cautious. Honestly, I think if I hadn't been so careful, I might have been kidnapped, or something worse. The first gas station I came across was well lit, and in a fairly open area. I pulled up to the pump, and before getting out, I looked around using my car's mirrors. As I started pumping gas, a normal-looking guy came out of the store and started smoking a cigarette. The pump kept clicking and wasn't working, so I was trying to fix it. The guy started watching me and laughing. I assumed he was just laughing to himself, amused by a teenage girl struggling to pump gas. After I managed to get just a little gas in, I decided to give up and move to another pump. If I hadn't done everything I did after that moment, I probably would have been in serious trouble. When I got back into my car, I immediately locked the doors and drove to the next pump. Before I got out and turned off the engine again, I checked all my mirrors, and that's when I saw the guy walking toward my car. He was smiling, and then he came right up to the driver's side window. Not wanting him next to me, I rolled down the passenger window instead. He paused for a moment, then smiled to himself and walked over to the passenger side. He leaned his head all the way into the window, trying to talk to me. The conversation went like this. "Hey, I know this looks really weird, but I promise I'm not a creep or anything. My car broke down and I really need a ride home. It's just a few miles down the road." Sorry, but I don't know you." "No, I totally get it. I felt weird walking over here too, but it's just a few miles down the road and I'm really stuck. I'd love to help, but I really don't know you." Suddenly, he looked really angry. He yanked at the door, but I had already locked it. Then he tried to reach for the inside door handle through the window. My car was still running, so I quickly shifted into first gear and started to drive. As he opened the door, the moving car slammed it shut and I sped off. After I got away, I called the police. They checked the gas station's cameras, and right after I left, he got into his red SUV and drove off. If I hadn't locked the doors a second time, I would have been in serious trouble. If I had let him come to the driver's side window, he could have grabbed me. If I had turned off the car, I wouldn't have been able to drive away in time. And if I hadn't double-checked my mirrors, I wouldn't have known he was there. I'm really lucky I was so cautious. Honestly, being careful probably saved my life this time. Moments like this make you realize that sometimes staying on the couch at home is the best decision. I don't even want to think about what could have happened. These situations are terrifying on their own. But for women, they take it to another level. Unfortunately, girls often have a much higher chance of being targeted in these scenarios, and this just proves how real that danger can be. A simple trip to the gas station, a normal evening, and suddenly you feel like someone's watching you. Being a woman in these situations means facing real danger more often and more intensely, and these experiences only confirm that. A routine stop for gas can quickly spiral into something you never want to experience. One wrong comment, one creepy smile, and it all starts to go downhill fast. Now, on to story number 5. One day after work, around 4 or 5 in the afternoon, my girlfriend and I decided to go to the movies. We had a tough shift, and both of us felt like watching a movie would be really nice. She asked if we could stop by her place first so she could change out of her work uniform. I said it was fine since it was only about 5 minutes away. We stayed at her place for a bit, grabbed a quick snack, and then got into my car. She asked if we could stop at a gas station near her house so she could grab a Red Bull. Again, I didn't mind since it was close. I drove to the gas station, and the only parking spot available was next to an abandoned car wash beside the station. To give you a better picture, the gas station and the car wash were right next to each other, with both entrances facing the same direction. It was completely dark outside, and the gas station was quite run down, with no lights near the pumps like most gas stations have. So, it was pitch black, except for the light coming from my car. On the other side of the station, there was a semi-truck with a trailer, and some cones were set up, suggesting that the space was blocked off for the driver. I assumed that the parking spots weren't too close, so I parked there. My friend got out and went inside, while I decided to stay in the car since she'd only be gone a few minutes. After she left, I locked the doors out of habit. I spent some time on my phone, and after a few minutes, I noticed a flash in the driver's side mirror. I turned around to look because the light was pointed directly at me. It was the truck driver. He started walking toward my window with the flashlight still on. I rolled the window down just about a centimeter, thinking maybe he wanted to tell me to move my car. He stopped when he was about 2 meters from my window and just stood there. At that moment, I got really scared because there was no reason for him to do that. So, I rolled the window back up and waited for my friend. Just to be safe, I kept my eyes on the guy, and I saw him fiddling around with the front of his truck for a bit. Then he stopped and turned back toward my car. He had something in his hand, but I couldn't tell what it was. And honestly, I'm glad I don't know. He started walking toward my window again, saying something. But this time, he came all the way to my door and tried to open it. He pulled on the handle several times, but the door was locked, so he started yanking on it even more aggressively. Just then, my friend came out of the gas station looking scared and headed toward my car. I was terrified too. The guy saw her coming and quickly went back to his truck. The moment she got into the car, I drove off as fast as I could. I'm not entirely sure what happened or what he was trying to do, but the only theory my friend and I could come up with was that he saw I was a woman, alone, and figured I'd be an easy target for something like a kidnapping or worse. But that's just a theory. I'm really glad I never had to find out what he actually wanted. So, this guy with a flashlight and a big plan just thought he'd try the car doors, because why not, right? When the subtle approach didn't work, he decided to get more aggressive. Brilliant logic, right? So, what was this guy's plan? Well, considering he tried to open the door and had something in his hand, which thankfully remains a mystery, it's pretty clear this wasn't some friendly attempt at conversation. No. Whatever it was, it probably wasn't an invitation for coffee. He was likely up to something bad. If it hadn't ended so quickly, who knows what could have happened? What do you think? What do you think that guy was planning? Maybe it's enough to send a chill down your spine, but the big question is, what would you have done in that situation? If you enjoyed the video, I would appreciate a like, a share, and of course, a subscription.